Milestones. We got another episode. Today we have two special guests, Eric Rodriguez and Josh Akin. They are both from St. Ed's University, St. Edwards in Austin, Texas, my hometown. Both of these dudes are really, really fast. They had some dope ass races, I should say, with me the past 2 years when I was at Texas Lutheran. I was really just wanting to bring on to the show at some point. They're roommates, so I said might as well just get them on the same show at the same time. So how you guys doing tonight? Can y'all hear me?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, doing pretty well. Can't complain. That's for sure.
Yo, guys. So these guys here, they both are middle distance guys. Or I guess you could say, what would you guys consider yourselves? Middle distance? I don't want to mess it up here.
Yeah, I would say for the most part.
Middle distance.
Gonna
Yeah.
dabble in some longer distance races later on.
Got you. So both of y'all got a race coming up. Two different distances, I should add. Eric's in the mile. Josh is in the 3,000 meter. They're both at A&M this week. What are your guys' intentions going into the rest of this week here? What's the rest of the week look like in terms of your structure and how you guys have been feeling recently? And what's the general mindset going into A&M this week?
Personally, so this will be my first 3K. So I just want to go out there, do my best. School record's 8:43, so I would love to go out and try to shoot for the school record. As structure for the week goes, we've got a track workout tomorrow to kind of trim up a little bit, get used to 9 flat pace for a 3K at least, and kind of just get used to that pace. And then the rest of the week's just easy mileage. I feel pretty good. Body's a little sore. We did some weights today. But other than that, just going to be focusing on recovery and making sure that I eat well and drink a lot of fluids throughout the rest of the week.
Nope. And as for myself, unfortunately, I'm going to have to sit this meet out. Have a little bit of an upper respiratory infection right now, but I'm still going to do my due diligence as a teammate and go and support this guy and hope he gets that 3K record. I'm going to see if I can call out the splits to him or something.
Shit, man. I hope I didn't give that to you on Saturday. I was just playing, bro. I had to run with these guys on Saturday morning at back in Austin when I was in town, and I hope I didn't give Eric any sickness myself because I was feeling a little under the weather. No, but in all seriousness, I'm sorry, Eric, and I hope that we can get you feeling back on track soon enough. All right, so both of you guys, you're not Austinites. I'm an Austinite myself. Obviously, I was born and raised in the cultural city of Austin. Highly impacted area in terms of the running world, right? You got Town Lake there. You guys got big programs like UT, St. Ed's, Houston Tillison's kind of growing. You got a handful of other of colleges within the outskirts of Austin, and it's just a highly used area in order to go out there and get a culture of running. Given that you guys are both not from Austin, was that an attraction in order for you guys? I don't think I've really asked you this guys before, and so I don't really know your mindset at all. But was that kind of an attraction in order for you guys to go and train at St. Ed's, be a part of St. Ed's program and just enjoy the Austin area for the running environment particularly?
Yeah, so personally for me, when I got recruited here, I just loved it down in Austin. I got to run with some of the guys on the team during my visit, and it was so beautiful, and it definitely played a huge role. And then personally, at the time I was coached by a different coach, and one of his recruiting points was that this was a team that was being built, and we weren't the best in the conference at the time, but I just wanted to be a part of something that would end up being great. And I was looking at DBU, who they go to nationals a lot and all that stuff, but I really wanted to be a part of something that would grow, and I wanted to be a leader, and I wanted to be able to make an impact with whatever school I went to. And honestly, I love Austin. I love the culture here and the running community, and it was really easy for me to make my decision on where to go to school. And honestly, I believe that it was the best decision for myself at the time.
Fee.
Yeah, my story, I'm just kind of from a small town, so I never grew up in a very strong running community, I guess you could say. So a lot of the athletes that inspired me growing up, I guess, were from Austin. Case in point, like Leo Manzano, for instance. So in my head, I kind of had this idea of Austin as this kind of running mecca. So that's definitely attracted me to the city and influenced my decision to come here.
Yeah.
That and also coupled with the fact that I have most of my family here in Austin, like from my dad's side. But one of the major attractions had to be after I ran with the team. I'm from a pretty small classification of schools, so I was never really challenged until the state level, regional level.
Right.
And just being able to run with guys who challenge me on a daily basis, I just think it's great. It pushes me even further than I thought I could go before.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say about that, really.
Yeah, I got you. Now, I mean, I think, going off of that, I mean, guys, like, I was, growing up, I've grown up in Austin. I've been there my whole life. Like I said, I was born and raised there. I think for me, like, I was always never really invested in as much as I needed to be growing up into the running community that was already built around me, And so for me, it was kind of I like to tell myself it was a later start, than usual for me to go into that, for the Mecca, like you said, Eric, of running for at least the state of Texas, And I think when you're down there, dude, like at the training down the trail, man, you just have that feeling like you got to be, especially if you're athletic enough and you have those capabilities to be fast, you got to feel like you're like a heavy hitter, like you got to go in there and just in training, you got to feel like, you're one of those guys because, very much know well that, each one of us are, ready to take any given guy's position, whether it be on the same team, the same training group, whatever the case is, like you're just there and the pressure's there. Not necessarily, not necessarily always pressure in your daily lifestyle there, but I mean, it's instinctive more than anything. Like it's already, relevant that you don't really, necessarily know it's there. You just feel it, And I think like that's always been a big part as to like recently, whenever my own, training has boosted up in the past several years, that alone has already been like a big aspect. And going with guys like yourself, and seeing you guys, train together, seeing me train with you guys from time to time, it's just like, dude, like this is what it's all about, in terms of that competition. But at the same time, it's just like there's that unadded pressure that you don't necessarily know is always there, if that kind of makes sense, And I think that you guys have definitely kind of, really owned up to that, especially by being a St. Ed's team. Speaking of competition, so you guys are going in to your first official sanction, at least, or like you were telling me earlier, fully funded track season for St. Ed's, right? You guys have raced track races before. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, all of us have had, races with each other, whether it be in the 1500, 800, 5K. We've had some really badass races. I know me and Josh have been battling. We battled to the line. Me and Eric, we battled in the 1500. He's beat my ass both times in the 1500 last year, either Texas State or Trinity. But I got his ass, I think, in the 5K. Maybe, I don't know. But anyways, man, how does it feel knowing that you've had track races though for St. Ed's prior to this? This is your first now eligible, right? I'm correct. Year 4, St. Ed's track. What are the feelings? Obviously, there's big expectations for you guys that you have for yourself, but how do you deal with that? And like, what else is going through your mind and like to deal with that going into the season?
For me personally, I believe that it definitely makes practice a lot more meaningful. Now that we do have a conference championship and we do have the opportunity to go to the national meet if we get fast enough, those things just really bring out the best of you each and every day, whether it's on easy runs, workout days, and just daily lifestyle. And it just gives you something to work towards. So last year, we basically just raced to get times and everything and practice race strategy. And we never really had anything to compete for other than just our own pride in races. But now we actually have people in the competition to go and do well at the conference meet and hopefully, win. We want to have some conference titles and we want individual conference champions. So definitely I think it changes your mindset in training. And yeah, I mean, over this winter break, I really was just, instead of just thinking about, hey, I want to get in better shape basically for fall next year, now I have something to work for in the spring. So I'm very excited. This is probably the most excited I've been to get my season started. And as a team, we're just doing very well and we're all just looking in great shape right now. So I'm very excited for what lies ahead.
Nice, man.
Yeah, also just building off of that, yeah, I completely agree. Like, everything we do now, do it now, I guess you could say. Just that sense of having to, actually work to proceed again, and not so much just for times anymore, but to actually progress forward. I think it's going to bring out a lot of more potential than otherwise has been shown to this point. Because I don't know personally for y'all, I don't know about y'all, but like personally in high school, like I would always try to like surpass my limits like any way I could, like to just have a chance at making it to the next level. Say like junior year, for instance, like I would dig deeper than I ever had before, and I think it'll be interesting seeing a lot of our guys and our teammates push even further than they ever have, and hopefully we'll, come away with a conference title and progress as far as we can. Hit a bunch of provisional marks, hopefully.
Yeah. Now, I think you guys are definitely going to have a talented year. I mean, you guys have the talent in place. You got a handful of guys that, mainly from, middle distance and up, right, that you guys have on your guys' team. And just you guys are probably just going to enjoy it, as much as you can, considering that now you have particular structure as to what you're working for. That makes the biggest difference by far. I can tell you that from, the standpoints I was in, when I was at Texas Lutheran, and I'm a red shirt now, so I can tell you it's kind of, hard to find that, aspiration in order to, do these workouts, do these things from time to time, and they're like, what's the reason? You got to make those goals for yourself, and I think you guys have done a great job, doing that. I think whenever I was racing you guys last year and the year before that, you guys have done a tremendous job in trying to find those, those goals at hand that you still got to race for. But now, just like you just said, it's there. You have the championship at hand. You got, the true competition that's tangibly on the list that you guys can see. Before this interview started, you guys were going over, the times and stuff that you got to make in order to go into the conference meet itself. And I think that, you guys have a really solid plan going at hand. You made a point, Eric, about high school. What's that? What was it like in high school for both of you guys? You guys were fairly fast enough to get enough recognition, to go into, a solid Division II like St. Ed's, or maybe even, Division I, even in whatever division you guys wanted, you pretty much had it. But how was high school for the both of you guys, and what were the aspirations of running like? And was it more or less for the sport itself, or was it more or less for just your guys' own success? I mean, I know that's kind of a back and forth question there that probably, you probably could say yes to both, but what was it more for whenever you were in high school, at least? And I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here. Obviously, we all have our different reasons to why we ran in high school. It's either secondary or primary. We have, our own structures within it. What were your guys' goals with it at high school?
Well, personally, if I'm going to be completely honest, I know a lot of guys have better reasons than I had to run in high school. Initially, I just did it because I wasn't good at anything else. I tried football. I got laid out. I tried basketball. I got dunked on. And, well, I tried just about everything, but I was halfway decent at track and cross country, at least by 3A standards.
Yeah.
And after a year or two, I say my junior year was probably my breakout year. I went from 218 in the 800 to 156.
It's a big ass drop. Goddamn.
And I guess I started sticking with it, or started pushing my training plan a lot harder, because I didn't grow up with my dad, but for whatever reason, when I started getting better at track, he started calling me a lot more and asking how I was doing a lot more, and I kind of really liked that attention that I otherwise never really got from him, and that's kind of what pushed me my junior and senior year of high school, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, my kind of story goes, I kind of had a late start to running. I didn't run in middle school, and I kind of got into the sport by accident, I would say. So I made the varsity soccer team at my school my freshman year, and we would have a time mile each week, and we were supposed to run under 7 minutes or something. And I was kind of keeping up with the top guys, the seniors and stuff. We were running I think 5:15 to 5:20 miles, and so the cross country coach came up to the soccer coach and was like, "Hey, we could really use some runners." And so they recommended me, and I played outside midfield, so I ran a lot. And I ended up trying out for the team, and all the other guys that went there, they all quit. And honestly, my first practice, the coach was like, yeah, go out and run 4 miles. And at that time, I had never ran more than just a mile. So I kind of walked my first practice.
Yeah.
And anyway, everybody just started quitting from the soccer team, or that got brought to
the
the
cross
country practice. And the coach called me in and was like, hey, we could really use you. We lost a lot of seniors last year. And yeah, so I think the first ever 5K I ran at a time trial, I ran like a 19:30, but it was good enough to get me on the varsity team at my school. And so my first race, I ended up doing really well. I ran like 17:50, my first ever 5K competitively. And so from there, my coach told me like, hey, if you really stick at this, you might have some potential in the sport. And I remember I qualified to the regional meet for 5A individually, and so I kind of fell short at region to the state meet, and that kind of grew this hunger in me. So from then on out, I kind of just stuck with it and was like, hey, like, I'm going to state next year.
Yeah.
And so I ended up qualifying to state, and after that, my junior year, I decided to quit soccer and focus and devote myself to the sport, and I took a risk. And well, after my junior year, that's when I started getting noticed by colleges, and that just gave me more motivation to stick with the sport. So I fell in love with it. I fell in love with how I felt when I did it. I fell in love with the person it made me, and just the friendships I made. And I think, honestly, the friendship's the biggest part of why I stayed in it, because some of my best friends from high school were through running. And honestly, I'm still best friends with them today, and I couldn't be more happy with the decision to stick with it.
Yeah.
So, and I would have never met this guy, yourself.
Yeah,
so
man.
I'm so happy that it all worked out.
Yeah, man, I feel you. I mean, the friendships, they're everlasting in the sport. Like that's the one thing that will never go away. You know what I'm saying? And like that's the most important part when you take away, what you take away from the day. I always tell myself, like, if I can stop running now, like, will I be happy? Will I be happy? The rest of my life, and with what I've done, at least in the sport. And I can legitimately tell you, if I stop now, I'll be happy for forever with whatever the sport has given me already. And it's been with friendships, and it's been with accolades, of course, all that stuff. But of course, the relationships that are there in general, like they're just instinctive, and they're built within. Going off of that, I was always kind of on the back end in terms of talent. Going off in high school, at least, and in the beginning stages of my collegiate career, I never really was able to kind of run, as fast as what I thought I was going to be capable of running at those given times. The minute I did start running as fast as I, really wanted to, it kind of brought me to, and brought attention to a lot of other guys around me who wouldn't necessarily mind, my relevance in the sport, at least, prior to that. You guys, you ran fairly fast. 5Ks, and you, even Eric, yourself, you had a 49-400 in high school already. You split that probably on a relay, and I think in an open, you had said, and you even had a 155 already, 800 meter, which is, very, very dominant for a high school runner. With those times running as fast as you are, at that given time, are you kind of already at hand by your senior year, thinking that you're gonna take this and put this already at the college scene at a very higher level? Or are you kind of just settle with the fact that you'll be able to make a college team and you'll just be good with that? What was both of your guys' particular goal sets when you were going into college?
For myself, I guess my specific goals was just to keep getting faster. Each year I would just be happy as long as I keep progressing. And of course, I have very, very ambitious goals for my time here at St. Edward's. I would really like to run very fast times, go to the national meet, and do a lot of things like that. So definitely, I wasn't satisfied with the times that I was running in high school, and I wasn't even satisfied at that point in time. And still to this day, I'm not satisfied. I believe that I have a lot more potential, and I have a lot more to give in the sport. So each and every day, I keep working towards that, and I believe that through hard work, you can reach any goal that you set your mind to.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see all the hard work pay off.
For sure, man.
Yeah, for myself, coming into college, just like straight out of senior year, I was really like fearful that I wouldn't stack up well, like out of high school, like that I probably wouldn't improve a lot more, and that really pushed me a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll even say, like, to this, even right now, I want to break 4 in the mile before I graduate. And coming into college, I never want to lose to someone who didn't genuinely work harder than me, you know? Like, if I know I can put in the work. That's always been a thing of mine. Always put in as much work as I can until my body otherwise breaks, until right before the point of breaking, I guess.
Yeah.
And if I can just keep pushing myself like that, I see no reason why I can't be at the very top.
I feel you.
And that's just something I'm shooting for constantly.
Yeah. Now, I think that's an important point, man. I mean, I know me and Josh were talking on the run on Saturday, and we were talking about, you know, I feel in shape, right? Like, I know I'm in shape. I'm either in the same shape I was last year. If not, then definitely better, right? But if you don't put that shit to pieces, you're going to have somebody who may be potentially not as in shape as what you are that will be able to put the pieces together better than what you are just that given day. What's it like? I know I've had a handful of those, you know, that just, you know, bite me in the ass, you know, after I walk away from the track, you know, and I just finished a race and I know I should have, you know, have lost to somebody or a couple of guys that were not, you know, in the same shape as me, but they just were able to piece it together better that day. What's your mindset with that? You know, like how, because I know we go through so much shit, you know what I'm saying, with all the miles you put on our body, all the weights that you guys probably do within it, all the workouts you guys go work out tomorrow, you know, you just did a long run on Saturday. You know, for an average person, when you think of it like that, that's a lot of shit to pile up, you know what I'm saying? And so what's that mindset given that you put all this structured work in, right? And so you're so adamant about it with your schedule and your daily lifestyle is structured around that. When it comes to race day and you know that you got to piece it together and you know that there's potentially another guy who's not in as greatest shape as you who could potentially beat you because they're ready to go that day and they know how to piece it together, what do you take away from you knowing that you have to show up, you know, on those given days particularly? And if not, then that's just, you just blow it over, you go to the next one, obviously. But for that particular day that you're focusing on so much, what's that mindset knowing that you are in that shape and knowing that you got to beat that guy who could potentially beat you that's not in as great shape as you are?
Yeah, definitely. I've been talking a lot with my coach lately because I feel like on the mental side, I still have a lot of room to grow. But, I mean, I was 90% mental. Honestly, everybody puts in the same work for the most part at this level, if not more than you or less. But regardless, everybody works pretty hard, especially at the bigger meets. You're not going to see anybody kind of slacking to get to where those meets get you. And anyway, definitely, I think just mentally preparing is a lot more important than people would think in the sport. Because if you're not ready to go, I mean, I would even say like 2 days out. If you're not mentally preparing at least 2 days out, then you've already lost.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you show up on race day not ready to race, not ready to give it your all, not ready to win, you're not gonna do that. It doesn't matter how in shape you are. If you're not ready in the head, you are not going to be as successful as you want to be. And I think that is something that I'm definitely going to personally work on this season. And so, I mean, I'm very excited. I think I'm in maybe the best shape of my life. I'm not quite sure, but I'm in pretty darn good shape. And, yeah, I just got to piece it together. And it is very disappointing to be beaten by people that you know are doing less than you are.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that all just comes down to the mental side
aspect,
of the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you outwork somebody in practice, then you should be able to beat them in the race if you're ready to go. So.
Yeah, so my take on that, picking up on what I said earlier on my reasons for running in high school, it's changed. I believe that I've kind of learned how to start running for myself. But with that being said, going into a race day that is a real important meet where, you know, I'm against a competition that may not be in the shape that I'm in, but is willing to put the pieces together. Every time before I line up, I like thinking about it like this. I'm from a small town. There was still a lot of great talent that I raced against, but maybe some of them weren't as fortunate to have the opportunities that I had. And whenever I beat them, I know that still hurt them.
Right.
But maybe some of them were my friends. They weren't able to run collegiately like I was. They weren't able to, just have the same opportunities I had. So in my mind, winning is kind of a promise. So like at this point, I'm not just carrying my own hopes. I'm carrying the hopes of everyone I beat. So that kind of just fuels me whenever I'm feeling weak in a race, I guess. And that's kind of what I like thinking about. It gets nitty and gritty.
Right. Most definitely. Given that, I know that, some people show up, and they see themselves as gamers, you know what I'm saying? Like, they can have, 10, 15, 20 shit workouts in a row. And then it comes to race day, and then sure enough, here they come, and they just have a breakout, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I know that, as much work as you guys put in, it definitely is a disappointment, if you have a race to where, it shows to where, like, you're not able to piece it together that day, and you know that you've been looking at this race. It's been on the schedule. It's been on the calendar for the past 2-3 weeks at least, and you get to that day and it doesn't work out. It's always a hard feeling. I think the harder feeling about it is of course right after the race. Like, what do you do in order to move on? How do you guys cope with a bad race? I mean, bad races are inevitable. We race so much. We put so many miles in, you're going to have a bad race or two within a given season. How do you guys cope with it? And then what's the mindset going into the next race after that to tell yourself, all right, well, let's, fuck it, let's move on, let's get to this one. What do you guys particularly, think in that aspect?
Honestly, I think the best way to describe this feeling is I would like to go back to my sophomore year of cross country. I was coming off an injury where I was out for 2 months, and I had literally 2 months of no running, and my whole basically summer training was just losing weight and getting back into race shape. And I had a really piss poor cross country season. I mean, I was running 3 minutes slower in the 8K than I was when I came in as a freshman. Because my freshman year I was running in the 26s, and then sophomore year, I had a race in the 29s, and honestly, I was very discouraged. And I remember after some races, I got to the point where I would just start crying because I was so upset with myself and how I was racing. And honestly, I just told myself, like, trust in the training, trust in the process. I had a new coach, so I thought, everything that he was doing was supposed to just make me so much better, but it wasn't. But I just kept telling myself over and over again, I promise you the hard work will pay off. Just don't give up. Don't give up. And honestly, I carried that into my winter training, and I came back, and I was just hungry after my awful race at regionals and cross, and I just told myself, I'm just gonna break out this track season. And my first 1,500 meter race, I PR'd by maybe 16 seconds. It was just a huge jump, and I ended up, running 4:03 by the end of the season from a 4:24 the season prior. And I was just so proud that I didn't give up, and I used the and honestly, I don't think if I had that bad season, then I wouldn't have gained more respect for the sport,
right?
And I wouldn't have kept pushing myself and not giving up. So,
well, I can tell you, I can relate with that a lot. I mean, when I have my bad races, boy, let me tell you, I have my bad races.
Yeah.
An example of that, I guess my junior year in track, I won my area meet with a 156. I'm projected to win the regional meet, and I go in there, and I'm just not able to piece it together that day. For whatever reason, I'm thinking I don't belong there. And so as a result of that, I found myself with a 2:12, I think I ran, and it was good for 11th place that day. I just think it's really important that does happen sometimes, because, it'd be boring, in my opinion, if everything went according to plan. You got to have some curveballs to make life interesting.
Yeah.
For sure, on that day it sucks, and usually I allow myself a day to grieve the loss, as I like to say. But after the day, I just try to mentally regroup and, just work even harder from there on out. It'll push me even harder. I know it's better for me in the long run.
Yeah. No,
yeah, our coach, he always tells us whether it was the best day of your life or the worst day of your life, you can celebrate for an hour.
Yeah.
And after that hour, you just let it go because you have more work to do. You're going to have another race. So, he's just like, you can't get, I mean, it's good to get caught up in the good days, but it's definitely not good to get caught up in the bad days.
And
just use it
ponder on
as
it.
motivation moving forward. So,
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that. I mean, I know as myself, like, you know, as many bad races I've had, I think I've tried to, within the past year or two, when I've really hit in my most mature spots in the sport, I definitely have tried to give myself that 1 to 2 hour, you know, window right after the racing, so we're like, all right, you know, we can sit there, we can cry about it in my head at least, and then try to move on. It's always easier said than done, though. You know, like, you can always say to yourself, all right, well, fuck it, we have a bad race, we can just do this hour, 2 hour window, we can sit there and think about it, and then move on. It's always harder than, you know, to say that, you know, to actually do that and then say it, of course, you know, because it always pops in your head for the rest of the day. And, you know, coming back from a race, it's always hard. You know, you got to face adversity to your own self. You know, everybody believes in you guys. You know, everybody believes in a guy like me because they've seen us do these things from, you know, time to time. At least our family members, our teammates, you know, that train with us from a day-to-day basis. I'm sure you guys, you know, tell each other, you know, you get, man, like, you got this shit. You know, let's move on to the next one. But we're our own worst enemy. You know what I'm saying? You know, we sit there and we actually, you know, to sit there and think about it. I know I am. I'm sure you guys are as well. So given that, you know, you have a lot to deal with from the mental side of things, right? Within the sport, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, it can drag you down or it can pull you up. There's probably no in between. If there is an in between, it's at very rare moments, right? But given that from a physical side standpoint, with the health side, you know, with the lifestyle, what has running done in order for it to shape your life? I know there's an Austin Marathon back home. I have to, you know, bring that up considering you guys are there and that's my hometown. You know, there's a lot of people there yesterday that were really excited just to be in the race and complete it. You know, a lot of people had, you know, whether shit races for what they planned it to be or, you know, good races for, you know, or for something they weren't expecting to run. And they had a lot of good stories that were packed behind it, you know, in order to go out and actually just complete the race in general. For you guys, you're not marathon runners, obviously. You guys are on the more faster end, you know, of things for the middle distance and distance side. But what has running done in order for you to kind of give yourselves that whole, you know, mantra as to going on with life and making it a lifestyle for your own guys, for your own selves? Like what has it done, you know, physically and health wise and maybe, you know, for mental health wise as well?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm the only one in my family that doesn't smoke cigarettes and does stuff like that. And honestly, running has honestly changed my whole family because ever since I started running, my parents, my brother, all of them want to just get in shape. Me and my mom made it a goal to go out and run a 5K together. And I mean, when she first started running, she literally could maybe go for about a minute. And now she's gotten up to 5-mile runs and she's running close to 30 miles a week.